Hello, it's Ben here at Glide, just shooting a quick video that will review the different ways that you can automate the creation of target dates. If we go to a typical job card, for example this VAT return job card here, we shall see that on every job card for every single stage you have a box below the target label. This is where you can record a target date. At a basic level you can quite simply fill these out manually. So like any date entry in Glide, you can click on the date picker and choose a date. If you need to kind of zoom out quickly, you just click on the top bit and you can jump back to a much earlier date. Don't try and type the dates in. Of course, a much quicker way to do this is to actually automate the creation and calculation of these target dates. And there's lots of options for you to do this. So let's get rid of that date there. Let's have another tab open and go into the workflow editor. So I'm going to go config menu, edit workflow systems, and I'm going to find that VAT return system. And this will take place on the workflow routes tab. So I have two workflow routes here. Let's just see which one my client is using. It's the VAT brackets Q. Okay, so that's that workflow route here. So you can trigger target date calculation on any of these steps. So the first step you might choose to trigger a target on is the on creation step. This is the step that is run when the system creates the job. If you're using the pool system, then remember you also have another special step that is triggered when a user takes a job from the pool, and thereafter you will have all of your blue progress buttons that are visible on your job card. So if I come to this job card here, we'll see that we're on the stage to request books and records, and we have one button, info requested. So to request books and records, and there's my one button, info requested. This is actually just an example of a hidden stage, hence why we can't see that on the job card. If we were to click this button to move on to the next stage, then we'd see we're on the stage awaiting books and records, and we have two buttons here, info chased and info received. So just to link that back to the editor, we'd see we're on the stage awaiting books and records, and we have an info chased and info received. So you can trigger the calculation of target dates on any of these steps. So let's have a look at how you might do that. Let's trigger one on info received. So we'll come back to the editor, we'll find that button, here it is, info received, and we need to click create new action. And the action that you require is either set target date or set target date brackets working days. The difference here is that of course the calculation will only consider working days here. So if you go plus 5 days on a set target date and it goes over a weekend, the Saturday and Sunday will be part of the 5. Whereas on the working days option, they will be excluded. So obviously go further into the future. Also takes account of bank holidays. So let's do a working days one. So you choose the subsystem there, just one on this workflow system, VAT. Now the 0 here is the number of days. So let's say I want to go forward 10 days. You pick the stage you want to set the target on. You know, that's really important. So let's say I'm setting a target to get it sent to the client for approval. We would find that stage in there. And the important settings is third one down. Now, depending on what your workflow system contains, you'll potentially have quite a lot of options in here. These top two are the ones that are kind of ever present, and they're the important ones to explain in this video. So execution date literally means the day that the code is run, it will take that date. So for example, if somebody were to click this progress button on today, the 26th of September, and we have used execution date, it will do the 26th of September plus 10 working days. So this execution date option is pretty good wherever you're triggering them on a progress button. You know, for example, I've passed this file for review, can I have it back in 20 working days, whatever it might be. The other main option here is job date. Now job date is referring to the date up here, you know, the year end, the back quarter end, the pay date, whatever it might be. Now that is the recommended option when you are triggering a target date on the job creation step. And the reason for that is that although your job creation is set by the rule. So for example, obviously on a recurring system it's fairly set, so you might have VAT returns being created 10 days before the quarter end. It is always possible for a user to create a job early, so if you were to use the execution date on the job creation step, you could have some unpredictable results if people start creating jobs early. So when you're setting targets on the job creation step, we recommend you use the job date. When you're setting them on progress buttons, we recommend you use the execution date. Now, other options you'll see, and we have one here. You can also calculate target dates, relative to any deadline on your workflow. Also, if we had any custom fields that were data type, they would also be available here. There's also another trick we can do, but I'll mention that towards the end of the video. So let's follow this example through with 10 days execution date and hit save. And we've added that to info received. So let's go back to our job. These things are instantly reflected across all of your jobs. So we'll say info received, and we'll see there that we've added on 10 working days from the current date. Now, these targets can be edited and in fact deleted. So if you want to change that, what you would need to do, so that's sent to client for approval, is on the workflow elements tab, come down to the stage, and it's actually one of the settings on the stage. You can make it kind of not editable, not targetable, all sorts of different options. So if you want everything to be automated and no users to have the chance to change these dates, then that's your setting there, and you can see that that's very much set in stone. Now, I mentioned there was another option, and this is a client-specific option. So before we discuss that, first thing to mention is that the workflow action we've put here, like all workflow actions, is specific to a workflow route. So if you were to have groups of clients that needed to be slightly different, let's say, for example, group 1 needed a target date of 100 days, actually it's quite big, of 10 days, and group 2, 20 days, you've got two ways of making these subtle differences. So first of all, you could simply have two buttons. One that says, this needs to be done within 10 days, one that says it needs to be done within 20 days. You could even kind of put a traffic light to block, kind of one of the buttons being used inappropriately, for example, based on client type or based on the answer to a field, that sort of thing. Your other option is actually to have a second workflow route. So we've got two here, and you simply allocate clients to the appropriate route. So if I come back to Mario's client card and go to the VAT tab, we'll see here it says default route. So because I've got two, I can tell the system which one Mario uses, and all future job creation will be on that workflow route. So that's another way of obviously changing your workflow actions for particular clients. But the third kind of way of varying these things is actually a per client option. And if I go to VAT returns and actually add a client field, which is data type number, where are we there? And if I call this, for example, days to send that to client, then what we will find is that I now have more options here. So if I go, what stage are we on now? Let's go back to our job card and just fill that in. So we're now about to click job started. So what I shall do here is I'm going to create a new action. Again, set target date, working days. And we'll see now we have three new options, which is essentially as before. So we've got execution date, job date, there's also job creation. But rather than what you'll then see is it then quotes my number field, days to send VAT return. And what will happen here, if we choose execution plus that field, when the target is calculated, it will take the value in that field for that client, and this value here will only be used where there is no entry for that particular client, so it's like the default. So what I shall do on Mario, I shall come to the VAT return tab, we'll find that field, days to send VAT to client, and we'll actually put in 10, and we'll hit save, and we'll go back to that job, and when I click job started here, it will calculate a target. Let's just remind ourselves what we did. Oops, we didn't actually pick a stage. That might be helpful. So let's say this one's for submitted HMRC. Okay, so we'll hit job started. And yeah, there we go. So that has added on 10 days, 10 working days, sorry, same as this one here. And that's because Mario had a value of 10 in the field. If I just delete that target and undo, throw us back to the job started stage, if we were to go to this VAT return tab and delete that value, then come back to the job and then take the step, we'll see that there's no value found, so it's used the default, which was 20 working days. So, you know, that's how you calculate all these targets. Quickly want to mention how you're going to kind of benefit from having this information on your job cards. First of all, of course, visually, you're going to see when people want things doing by, but there's also a few other opportunities to use this information. So, and where we present, you know, on a job card, you might have multiple target dates. Where we extract that as kind of management info, we tend to focus on what we call the next target date, and it's important to know how that is calculated. So we are currently on stage in progress. It's the stage here, and the system will look at all incomplete stages, and that will also, by the way, include any job fields you have that are date type where you have a target date. But principally we're looking at the stages that have not been completed, and it picks out the most urgent target date. So even if there's a target date on the current stage, if there's a more urgent one, it'll pick out that one. So for this job, it's going to be the 10th of October. And that's the date we use in a variety of different reports. So for example, if I go to VAT return jobs, just reset those filters, check we've got all our active jobs there. What we shall see is that we have next target here. And I can already see Mario's there, 10th of October. And that's one of these fields that you can click on the button there and sort by that field. There's also a setting actually in your user profile to remove this text, which is quite helpful if you are exporting this to Excel and that sort of thing. So that's one place you're going to see it. Also, if we jump to a dashboard, we have upcoming targets here. So what this does is it actually, for all jobs in the system, it is obtaining that next target date, it's deducting it from the current day to give you the number of calendar days that you have left to go to get that done. So a negative, of course, means that you've slipped behind, and a positive means that you've got a certain number of days to go. So I'll just check my eye icon here. Yep, that's set to overall. So yeah, there we go. There is Mario's VAT, and it's 14 days. Of course, it's the rule was 10 days, that was 10 working days. This is telling you you've literally got 14 days to go. So this is a great safety net for ensuring work is done in a kind of client-friendly fashion. There's also, this user that I'm logged in as doesn't have any, but the jobs held with a target. This is a nice one where kind of users are holding jobs and completing jobs, and it actually organises them by target date. So yeah, that's a quick intro to the target system. If you have any questions on that, then obviously just feel free to get in touch with Glide at any time. Thank you very much.